Welcome back. Second segment of Civil Discourse Now. I am Mark Small, co-host with Paul Ogden. We are here today with our guest Jeff Cox. We're discussing global climate change. We are coming to you live. This is the first live shooting we've done.
Not dead.
From Big Hat Books at 6510 Cornell Avenue in Indianapolis. It's in the area of Indianapolis called Broderville, kind of a hip area. For sale here is Dan Barton's The Next Right Thing. It's a pretty good novel. They just had a signing party here on Thursday night for it. The selection of books here is really arcane. It's really kind of cool. It's a locally owned bookstore. It's not a big box bookstore. It's really kind of nifty. And there's space up here for special occasions. And you were wanting me to mention something, Paul, when we were off. You said I needed to mention something, and I forget what it was.
I don't recall saying that.
Okay.
Well, we'll think of it for the third segment.
Yes. Now, next week is St. Patrick's Day, before I forget. And St. Patrick's Day, we're going to do I call it a very special edition of Civil Discourse Now. We're going to discuss whether there should be laws against public intoxication. For that show, we'll be coming live from Broderville Tavern. I hope. I will negate that. I haven't confirmed that. We are going to be coming to you live from a local establishment that serves alcohol by the glass. But we will be doing that next weekend on public intoxication laws. St. Patrick's Day, of course, is an Irish holiday, and it has nothing to do specifically with consumption of alcohol, but everybody seems to think it does, and so everybody drinks heavily on St. Patrick's Day.
And so your intent, Mark, is to drink a great quantity of beer and then go out on the street and try to get arrested, right?
No, I'm just going to drink a great quantity of beer.
Okay.
I'm going to enjoy a cigar, and we're going to take the show, and we're going to have fun. Now, we're talking about global warming today. And the first segment, we talked about environmental awareness and how it really kind of came into, and really reached a rational state in 1970 with the enactment of federal legislation. They're looking at me oddly when I said rational state. Since 1970, we're used to having certain environmental regulations in this country. And with Ronald Reagan's ascendancy to the presidency, I think that there was an argument that we have too many regulations in our society. So, gentlemen, where do you want to take this conversation now as far as the regulations that we have in our country?
Well, I think one thing to point out is that when it started becoming vogue in the late 60s and early 70s, the environmental movement, it had some issues with accuracy and with maybe whipping up hysteria when all the facts weren't necessarily in. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring has now been debunked, but DDT was banned. The most effective killer of mosquitoes was banned based on the outcry created by Silent Spring.
Well, but there's a couple things about DDT. One was it did kill a lot of avian population, I mean, especially the American bald eagle was near extinction because the DDT affected the manner in which eggs calcified. And so the birds weren't able to fully develop, and so we lost a lot of eagles that way. DDT is not necessarily a great chemical. It might kill some insects for a while, but the second thing about DDT is insects will evolve such that DDT won't be effective against them anymore.
It's true of all chemicals.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's true of all chemicals. Then you just modify the chemical or develop another one. In the case of DDT, there are certain restrictions that you can place on how it is used, when it is used, that would make it safe for the wildlife population. But the problem is that they banned it outright, and so at least 14 million children have died in Africa because of an inability to use DDT to keep them from mosquitoes when the diseases brought by mosquitoes, especially malaria, are eminently preventable.
What's that statistic? Where's that from?
Well, I got it on my iPhone.
Okay.
It's actually, I believe it's from Christopher Monckton, the British Viscount who's working to expose the fraudulent nature of the climate change movement.
And Christopher Monkton himself has been debunked, I believe, although you would probably disagree with me.
He hasn't.
Well, let's go on.
Yeah, I'm a little confused because global warming is not about pollution. Pollution actually lowers the temperature.
Well, global warming is, and I'll stand up for them on this, it is about pollution because the theory behind global warming is the greenhouse effect, in which it traps air and then you get what they call a feedback loop, in which the more air is trapped, the warmer it gets. But
I can see someone's tampered with my materials here at the table.
that's probably the most accurate thing written on it.
No, I believe that Mr. Ogden has been responsible for writing a bovine, a reference to bovine excrement on this document that I was going to quote on here. In terms of what causes global warming, scientists learned there are several greenhouse gases responsible for warming, and humans emit them in a variety of ways. Most of them come from the combustion of fossil fuels in cars, factories, and electricity production. The gas responsible for the most warming is carbon dioxide, CO2. Other contributors include methane released from landfills, and okay, Paul, here's where you go. Agriculture, especially from the digestive systems of grazing animals, I know you wanted to say that. Nitrous oxide from fertilizers, gases used for refrigeration and industrial processes, and the loss of forests. And this is important, the loss of forests that would otherwise use up that CO2. Because we exhale CO2 as human beings, we inhale oxygen, and plants outside inhale the CO2 that we exhale, and that they exhale oxygen in turn. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
I gotta say, earlier I was thinking about Silent Spring and the banning of DDT. I misspoke. It's not 14 million children have been killed in Africa. It's 40 million.
Yeah.
And again, what is your source?
Christopher Monkton.
See,
Okay,
this is a typical liberal response. They don't like they don't like the information. They don't like the statistics. So then they go out and say, "What's your source?"
No, actually, that's
Who funded that?
That's actually something that's very legitimate on analyzing anybody's information on debating something. Christopher Monkton has been criticized in a great many ways, but also if you look at some of the, let's first of all establish that the idea behind global warming is that human beings have put out so much crap that contains carbon that well, you're saying carbon dioxide, but carbon is the chief.
No, he's not saying carbon dioxide. The global warming people are saying carbon dioxide.
No, carbon dioxide is the chief culprit because it is the most prevalent pollutant with carbon in it. Carbon is a main factor because without carbon you couldn't have life, but too much carbon and we have a problem in the environment. But the whole idea is that by creating these greenhouse gases or all these gases in excess, we create a greenhouse effect, and so the sun's rays come in and warmth just doesn't go out or it doesn't get absorbed, and so temperatures rise on the planet.
The problem is, why is carbon dioxide a lagging indicator of temperature increases? Carbon dioxide follows temperature increases. It doesn't cause temperature increases.
What's your source?
This article I'm looking at that's so small in print I can hardly read it, but that is
you can borrow my new glasses, by the way. You can borrow my new glasses.
He got new glasses. Can you tell that? He wants everyone to know that he got new glasses. Where did you get the new glasses?
I got these. I'm glad you asked. I got them from a local optometrist. It wasn't a chain. It was Urban Optics here in Broad Ripple. So I got these excellent glasses that I can see the truth more clearly than you can, Paul. What is
the article is CO2 science, but I've heard the statistic many times before. This is not exactly news. That carbon dioxide actually follows temperature increases. It doesn't cause temperature increases.
It's a chicken or the egg argument. And the environmentalists say that the CO2 causes the warming, and the actual people who know science say it's the other way around.
Right. The warming causes CO2 increases, not the other way around.
Or at least it's linked to. They're not saying it's necessarily caused by it, but there's a correlation.
Well, unfortunately, I think you would find, and I know you gentlemen will disagree on this, but that over 90% of scientists who are involved in warming the climate system is unequivocal, and scientists are more than 90% certain most of it is caused by increasing concentrations of greenhouse gases produced by human activities.
But you mean like Peter Gleich?
Peter
Gleich is the latest individual. He's an alleged scientist at the Pacific Institute. He specializes in water, and he's been one of the chief proponents of the theory of what they call anthropogenic global warming. It's global warming caused by humans. And he's not a climatologist. He doesn't know anything about weather. He doesn't know anything about history. He just knows about water. And so a lot of the scientists on there that are listed...
When did he get in trouble?
He got in trouble for lying and making a... well, first he got in trouble for lying to the Heartland Institute to get some secret documents about their campaign against the theory of anthropogenic global warming, and then he released them with a faked memo.
Right.
That
and that's a bunch of bunk. The whole thing about the release of the memos that were released that supposedly call into question the methodology of the global climate change scientists. First of all, they were taken out of context.
I think you're talking about something else. You're talking about the emails.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a new scandal. This is a new scandal. There was Gleich leaked the internal stuff that he got from the Heartland Institute, but in that package of documents, which were legitimate, those were documents from the Heartland Institute, there was a faked memo that indicated...
Actually, no, that came later. They confronted him about the leaked memos, and he said the reason why I did that was to confirm information I got in this anonymous memo that was mailed to me.
Yeah, well,
and then he said, okay, this is the reason why I did it.
That memo was fake, and that memo was actually made, they determined that memo was made, after the documents that were at the Heartland Institute were created much later, and in a different time zone than the Heartland documents were created. So it was most likely fake, and that was the one that caused the most stir because it made the Heartland Institute look the worst.
Okay, but this is diverting attention from...
Actually, it doesn't, because the climate change people consistently have to... Yeah, they have to manufacture data. They have to keep it from being peer... That was the whole problem with the climate data issue, with the Climate Research Unit at the University of East Anglia. They didn't want people who disagreed with them researching their data.
And this is the Independent Climate Change Emails Review Report from July 2010. And it goes through all of the emails, points out how they were taken out of context, points out how some of the language in it, like where one guy said, well, we need to trick out the statistics on this one thing. We need to trick them out. That's a term that they use for shaping them in such a way in terms of a presentation, not falsifying.
These were by people who support the theory of anthropogenic global climate change and the funding. It was a whitewash.
Oh, no, it's not a whitewash.
It was a whitewash.
We'll be back for this next
It's
segment.
white. It's a whitewash.
That's gray. It's a gray wash. We'll be back in the next segment.